There's probably going to be some bad language in this, so you might not want to let the kids watch. What's going on, you flamin' drongos? The Wino is back with his next Ultimate Fighter Season 29 review, Episode 10. Once again, the fight was great. No complaints about the fights this season. They've all been pretty bloody good. But the lead-up, once again, left a little to be desired. And you can tell the producers finding that too, because they're having to come up with stuff to fill the time. Obviously, the boys aren't getting in conflict back at the house. They don't even seem to be, getting drunk and doing stupid shit, which could be a little entertaining sometimes. They're just some well-behaved young men there to win the competition. So last week they brought in that the semi-finalists get to talk with their loved ones on like some type of video chat, whether it's Zoom or Skype or whatever. Clearly, they needed to fill some time with that. They do that again just before the fight. This episode, not much to talk about there. Hey, it's nice that they have families. They're real people. Great. Also, this episode, they brought in a team challenge. We haven't seen a goddamn team challenge since the first two seasons when they used to bring them in all the time. That's how they picked which team had picked the fight. And they nixed that pretty quick because they realised, people care more about the drama in the house, the training, and most of all, the fights themselves. But they had to bring in something to fill the time. So this time the boys walk out into the car park and there's some kind of four-wheel drive out there. Americans would call it a truck. We don't really call those trucks here in Australia. Our trucks are like actually trucks, But there's Forrest Griffin is there to introduce some off-road, race car driver. Good to see Forrest there. He's kept his Legends contract. Matt Hughes and Chuck Liddell got booted when the new owners came in because they were on kind of these legacy contracts just because Dana was so appreciative of everything they'd done, for the organisation, helping it build from the Zuffa times, from when Zuffa took over. And Forrest, I believe, was on one of those too, but he kept his job because he does work with the Performance Centre and he does a bunch of shows and stuff for them. So we get to see Forrest again. Gotta love Forrest, such a fun guy. And he introduces this dude, and the dude is talking about the car, and he's like, this is a fire-breathing, wolf-eating monster. It's designed to eat up the desert. And you know what you're going to do with it? And you can tell the guys are like, we're going to get to drive it. We're going to, do laps of the course, and whoever gets the fastest time, or the team all together, like when you add the times up, whoever's fastest, that team wins. Like, what's it going to be? And the dude goes, you're going to change the tyres. Boys probably need their tyres changed because they'd be a little deflated after that one. But anyway, they get into it. Turns out that Brady has actually worked at a mechanics before, so he's kind of the ace in the hole for the Volkanovski team. And sure enough, his expertise basically wins them the competition. They win. They get some big prize. And they get back to the house, and that big prize is they get like a sushi dinner with the chefs there preparing it for them. And look, that would be a great prize usually, especially if you like sushi, which Ryder does, and it doesn't matter too much for him because he's out of the competition. But I mean, you're in a competition where you've got to really be watching your weight and shit. And you're also in a competition where you can pretty much, if you want to eat something, you can eat whatever you want. You can put it on the list and they'll bring everything to you. So while it was a nice gesture, I don't know if it was the best prize for this type of situation. And also because they're in Nevada, how fresh can your sushi really be? Like, you're in a bloody desert. Like, I don't think they pulled it straight out of the water and drove it out there, But anyway, they got their sushi dinner. They seemed to enjoy it. Poor old Brian Battle had a fight coming up, so he had to, be watching his weight. He says it himself. I would have destroyed it if I was able, but, got to keep the weight down. And that was the little, competition, the little team challenge and the prize. And then we get some good training footage. Especially what I enjoyed was the fight simulator on Team Volkanovski for Brian Battle. Seemed like a really good idea. You do 3 5-minute rounds, each round cycling through with the different coaches in different aspects of the fight. So first, you're hitting pads with head coach Joe. Then you're sparring with Volkanovski, which would be an absolute, what an opportunity for guys at this level. Even though, I mean, the middleweights, they're going to have a bit of range and stuff. So sparring with a featherweight, you might want to be sparring someone with, more your distance. But look, Volk could still take it to him. He'd probably beat most of them in sparring anyway, even though he's 3 weight divisions below him, because he's the world fucking champ and these guys are just trying to get into the UFC. Then you have wrestling, I'm guessing mainly defending takedowns, and Brian was really going to need that in the lead up to this fight with Petrovsky. And then you finish with having to get into negative grappling positions with Craig fucking Jones and grapple your way out of him, which is another thing that Brian was really going to need in the Petrovsky fight. And clearly this paid off for him later in the fight because he did some good defensive grappling. And to finish with Craig Jones after going through those other cycles, it'd just be so buggering. And for you non-Australians, that means tiring. And then you got to do it again for another 2 rounds. Like, really interesting concept and kind of fun to watch him work through that a little bit. And now we get to the fight. And I already said this was another good one. First round, real interesting. It was mainly Petrovsky with offensive grappling. Battle was getting some good shots in, trying to keep his distance, but Petrovsky's got just a real slick single leg. Almost every time he went for it, I think maybe even every time he went for it, he got the takedown. Early in the round, Battle kept getting pretty much straight back up from it, but he could never keep his distance that long and always ended up getting taken back down. And in one of these exchanges where he got taken down and got back up, something really weird happened. And you couldn't really see it happening live. And even when I rewound it a few times, you couldn't really see what was going on because of the camera angle. But Petrovsky called for a headbutt. He's like, what the fuck is that? And I couldn't see it. But when they broke and they went to the replay and they said, no, it was a knee, you could clearly tell that knee wasn't where the incident happened because it didn't hit him in the spot that caused the cut, which was above the eye, like right on the eyebrow. And he already had the cut when that replay was going on. So I rewound that numerous times trying to see where it happened. And it happened just before Battle hit a big knee to the body in the clinch. And when I saw it live the first time, I thought that's what Petrovsky was complaining about. I thought he thought that was a groin strike. And I was like, clearly wasn't. But sometimes if you get hit in the guts, it kind of feels like that same feeling. So when I heard Petrovsky saying that there was a headbutt, like I rewound it numerous times to try to figure out if it was, and it was inconclusive because he couldn't really tell from the camera angles, but I also couldn't figure out what had caused the cut. So I'm like, maybe it was a headbutt, who knows? The interesting thing is once the fight finished and they did the rundowns, while they were showing the replay in the rundowns, they did get a different angle of it and showed it in slow motion, and it was a head clash. I wouldn't call it a head butt because head butt is more of an intentional thing, whereas this was slightly more Battle's fault, but it was definitely non-intentional in that Petrovsky kind of posted up, kept his head kind of straight and was throwing an elbow, and Battle kind of crashed forward and they smacked heads together. So it really was a head clash, but it's not like you should be taking a point off Battle or anything like that because it was definitely unintentional. But they're both really fired up after this because Petrovsky thinks it was a headbutt, so he's pissed off, and Battle thinks he's been cleared, and he's like, see, it was a knee, so they're both, really antsy, getting at each other. And when it starts again, the action was pretty intense, and Petrovsky finally gets a takedown and secures some position. He gets the back, and this happened about 2 minutes into the round, and pretty much the rest of the round was him on Battle's back. He was attacking with chokes. Never really looked like he was going to get the chokes, but sometimes it looked like, some of those neck cranks trying to get the choke could be kind of dangerous. Also, there were points where he'd flatten Battle out and be in the top position on back and was landing some good ground and pound. So, at the end, Battle did get up with Petrovsky backpacking him, and they finished the round on the feet, but that round clearly went to Petrovsky with his dominant grappling. And the thing is, though, you could see Petrovsky was clearly buggered after that round. He had no gas left. Well, he had a bit of gas left. He had enough gas left to fight, but he was gassed hard, whereas Battle was still fresh pretty much. And that was the telling factor in the next round. Now, round 2 was fun while it lasted, but it didn't last too long. And it was largely because of Petrovsky feeling that gas tank being empty. The way they edited it in the breakdown of the round at the end, it was mainly Ortega talking about what happened, and the way he saw it was completely not what happened in the fight. He was saying Petrovsky was piecing Battle up on the feet. And I'm like, no, Battle was piecing Petrovsky up. Petrovsky landed a few shots and they were clean, and he's got power, but because his gas tank was so low at this point, he'd lost a lot of power from those punches, and they didn't seem to be affecting Battle too much at all. Whereas Battle not only severely outlanded Petrovsky, landing many more punches and kicks, but he still had a lot of pop left in his strikes. And he landed numerous punches and also 2, I think it was, really good body kicks that took even more gas out of Petrovsky and seemed to affect him pretty badly. Then Petrovsky shoots in on a takedown and he gets it, but Battle gets straight back up. And while changing position to go for the single leg again, Battle catches him in a ninja choke. And Petrovsky does the right thing. He drops to his back to try to get out of the position, but Battle just had it in super tight, and it must have been in bloody tight because he didn't really have the position to finish a ninja choke because he was kind of in side control here, but he still got the tap anyway. And the combination of it being in tight and also I think Petrovsky being so low on gas, when you're tired and then someone's choking you and you can't breathe, that's the fucking worst. So that can bring on the tap a lot quicker. So yeah, Battle causes the upset. And if you looked at the way Ortega was explaining it, Petrovsky was just dominating that round and then Battle caught him in a ninja choke. That's not what happened. Battle was winning that whole round and sealed it with a ninja choke. Then you had Volkanovski super stoked and saying to Dana, I told you. Dana was really impressed because he's always impressed when, one of the big picks to take out the season, which Petrovsky was. He was Ortega's first pick. When they lose to a guy, who's seemingly the big underdog, he's always really impressed. And, Battle did a lot to impress in this fight because surviving that first round, apparently not many people do survive that first round against Petrovsky, and Battle did it and then came out in the second and completely dominated. So I think a lot of that gas was one, they say Petrovsky's not used to going over one round and he does, put a lot of energy into his grappling, but also the anger of the head clash, because he thought it was a head clash and it turned out he was right. The anger he felt would have got his adrenaline up and burnt a lot of wasted energy, and I think that was a factor in his gassing out as well. End of the day, Battle takes it out and he's moving on to the finals. We got at least 3 of the top picks out now. I forget who Ortega's top bantamweight pick was, so I can't remember if they're out or not, but Mitch Raposo was Volkanovski's top bantamweight pick. He's out. Ryder was Volkanovski's top middleweight pick. He's out. Petrovsky was Ortega's top middleweight pick. He's out. It's the season of the upsets. And in terms of my picks for the semi-finals, I'm 0-2 right now. End of my last video, I put him out. I didn't get the picks out before that first semi-final fight, but I was honest and I did say that I picked Ludwig against Ricky, and Ricky won. And then I had picked Petrovsky to beat Battle. Battle wins, and look, they're two picks I'm happy to get wrong because they're both Team Volkanovski, and I've said it before, I'm not ashamed to admit I'm a little biased towards the Australian coach team. So, yeah, next week my pick is Vince, and I'd be happy to once again be proven wrong and for Brady to win it, because then we'd have an all Volkanovski bantamweight final. And then the pick for the last week is Gilbert Urbina over Tresean, who I do hope Urbina wins, because once again, he's the Volt guy. So, yeah, another great fight. The fights have not disappointed this season, and I'll catch you next week for the next review.